G'day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 19 of the Rugby League Coach podcast. 19 weeks. That's a long time.
It's like about 1/3 of a year, isn't it, basically? 19 plus 19 equals...
Well, we're encroaching halfway.
38.
26 is halfway.
Yeah.
So, we're
doing all right.
We're doing all right. We're still ticking along. I'm joined, of course, by Lee Addison there in his Poland Rugby League shirt, which is very World Cup-esque, which is what we'll be touching on a lot of the times in the next couple of weeks. We're also joined by Mr. Andrew James Varley, current UK resident and proud.
Current as if it's just like a passing thing.
Mate, he's our boots on the ground. He's live. He's in action. He knows exactly what's happening. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Varley. Your presence is much appreciated. And as Lee has mentioned to us, we may be getting some mid-podcast guests jumping online, so we'll see if they are to join. Not too many big news stories this week in Rugby League. No. We're all sort of gearing up for the World Cup. But there is one thing that I've noticed on Facebook, and it was 2 hours ago, and it was a very strong opinion from yours truly, Lee Addison, on the Rugby League jerseys for Australia.
Mate, it's an iconic jersey to me. To me, the Australian Kangaroos are the epitome of the best rugby league on the planet. So if you're a Kangaroo, you're probably one of the best rugby league players on the planet. They have played some of the most amazing stuff over the decades. They haven't lost to Great Britain in a series for half a century. They haven't lost a test match to Great Britain or England since 2006. They've won all but one of the last 10 World Cups, I think it is, or 11 World Cups. They are the Harlem Globetrotters, the All Blacks of rugby league. And I guess for me as well, despite being British to my bootlaces, were the words I used in the post, the jersey has never been tinkered with, really. It's been 2 gold chevrons, green. Iconic. And I think the numbering system, it's not the fact that they are squad numbers, because the World Cup wanted squad numbers, so that's understandable, particularly if there's a name on the back. I remember that has happened at a World Cup before. But to mess up the order, so for example, for the half and 5'8", the scrum half and the standoff not to be in 6 and 7, for Latrell Mitchell to be in number 8. I mean, I know the guy puts on a bit of weight occasionally, but there's so many other strange numbers in there. I mean, come on. I mean, what a classic case of overthinking. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that in the bigger scheme of things, it's not that. It's, the Australians are still going to fill the jersey with pride. They're going to do the jersey proud. I have no doubt about that. But when it comes to trying to get people interested in our game, when it comes to the poor commentators who are reading out the teams and trying to explain it, I mean, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. And it's baffling. It's absolutely baffling. So I think it's a classic case of overthinking. I think if you're in a squad, as you know, Taylor, having been coached by me in the past, I like to let people know where they stand. I think players prefer that. If you've got jersey 14, 15, 16, 17 or higher, you've got to work to get into the coach's top 13. If you're in 1 to 13, you should know that if you don't keep up your performance, that you're going to be out, I don't know what they were thinking. I really don't.
I'm looking at this and I'm thinking it's a bit, it doesn't keep the originality of the numbering system. But at the end of the day, the World Cup has requested this. Do you think it's really necessary to have each player with their own individual number, James? Like, I look at it and I'm just thinking, surely they can just change the numbers before a game. What difference does it make? You can only register 24 players. I'm sure there's quite a large registering system with photos and all sorts of passports that you'll need to be in the World Cup. Like, what are we doing here? Why do we need to have certain squad numbers?
I don't know. It seems ridiculous. I mean, at club level, that have your squad numbers. I mean, they've done that. That's absolutely fine. But with the international team, it should just be 1 to 17, and just do it that way. But I set a pot on Lee's status earlier on. I put a comment about the only sport where they do it, but it's a different way they do it. Is just in international cricket, they use a cap number, so that's a cap. So England's first player will be down as 1, and they can be a far higher number. But there's no need for it in this. It should be 1 to 17 with international rugby league.
You know, if we're going apple and apple, what you just said, James, then you know some of these players would be number 1,042, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And the other thing, Taylor, I just want to say is that, sorry, to your point and what you asked about squad numbers, it's actually quite a big thing in Europe and in England, particularly in the Premier League. So when the Premier League came in English football, the senior clubs, the big clubs, they wanted squad numbers for merchandising purposes, right? And because can you imagine what a Beckham number 7 would sell?
Absolutely.
Or a Ronaldo number 7 or whatever it may be. It's funny enough, when Beckham went to Real Madrid, he had number 23, and the number 23 was still a big thing. And it was a big merchandising thing. Just like Brady's might be, you know, is it 47 or something like that?
Yeah.
So
Michael Jordan 23.
Yeah. So, you know, there's ways around it like that, but ultimately those numbers that we've both mentioned there, 23 and 47, whatever, they're outside the 1 to 11 or 1 to 13 or, you know, so, you know, you could pick any number really, couldn't you, as long as it's after 17. So, But
there's a key difference there, Lee. I understand what you're saying, merchandising, all that sort of thing. In cricket, in soccer, in basketball, there is no position synonymous with a number. In rugby league, number 1 is fullback. Number 2 and 5 are wingers. Number 3 and 4 are centers. There is, I really can't think of any sport where the number that you wear is synonymous with the position. Even
football,
in
soccer. You know, the 1 is the goalie, or used to be. You know. So there are sports, and to that point again, Taylor. You know, give you the top 13, number 1 to 13, and then let the rest fight for the places. Is my opinion. You know, it's don't need to reinvent the wheel.
I just think this system that they've created, Mal Meninga is ultimately the coach, right? If he doesn't like it, like he's come out, said he doesn't like it, blah, blah, blah. If he doesn't like it, why can't he turn around and change it?
It might be too late. The jerseys might be printed. They might be sized up. I assume they are tailored to be perfectly fitted, Taylor.
Oh, absolutely. But he would have known about this. He would have known about this when he picked his squad, and he could have, before they even did jersey sizes and all that, and he would have been able to change it. I think, I may be barking up the wrong tree here. I think a little bit of me thinks Mal Meninga knew about it, and it gives him the anonymity to pick to not have Cleary in the 7 or Cherry Evans in the 7, or not give these. Like, I still think he's genuinely holding up those 2 horses.
I've got a slightly different theory, lad, which is I think it's somebody above anybody in the Australian team who's made a decision, and it might be that Mal is doing a little bit of he's just got to go with the flow, and therefore he's just said that he doesn't like it, but he's not criticised anybody. So
no,
there's and you know, it's interesting because Des Hasler threw the administration under the bus at Manly, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Whereas Mal hasn't done that. Mal has said he didn't like it, but he's not thrown anybody under the bus. So I think it may have been a commission thing, mate. You never know. Yeah. So that's my other theory. But I don't necessarily disagree with yours too. But yeah, Des threw the administration under the bus, and look where that got him.
I'm hoping the Dolphins do the same thing next year, and all the previous Cup players count as first grade players at the club. You know, my question is, whoever wears number 1 next year, are they the number 1 in the first grade history, or do they keep their cup history? Because I'm 673, and I'm thinking in 500 years, no one's going to remember that I played cup and not NRL, and maybe post-mortem I'll be respected a little bit more for my rugby league career.
Well, of course, NRL has slightly different rules in the sense that
they don't do it.
You've got to name your 1 to 17 each week, and then by Tuesday, and then therefore number 18, 19, and 20 if they're listed, they have to play in those jerseys at the weekend, don't they? So,
I mean, how big a deal would it have been for the Australian side to just go, I know the jerseys get specially fitted, but could we get one specially fitted while we're over there and change numbers as we go? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Because it's the Australian team. They're not going to spare any expense. They flew over their business class. They were staying in a nice bloody hotel for the month or 2 months they're over there for,
Yeah.
I think they're top notch. But anyway, we move on. And
why they did it? They wanted to give us something to talk about, Taylor.
They thought about the Rugby League Coach podcast, and they were thinking bit of a quiet week.
I'd like to bring something up, host, if I can, an agenda item. I think we should address our surroundings this week because you're in a desert island. James is driving the bus. And I'm in my living room, and I had my fake Zoom backdrop up before, and I've got one of them sofas where you can move it out there. So I'm just leaning on that bit. I thought I should describe that to people.
Yeah, okay.
I decided to lie on my sofa tonight. I trained with one of my kids at the coach, and I did the full session with her.
Yeah,
and I've not exercised for a couple of weeks, so I'm absolutely knackered.
Well, I'm last week. I was on Mad Monday drinking while we were doing the podcast.
That's right.
So this week, I'm on my end-of-season footy trip.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm in Bali.
That's right.
I'm in Bali.
And I think the day we're recording it too is quite significant, isn't it?
It is. It's of course the 20th anniversary of the Bali Bombings, and who could forget how synonymous that is with our game, with the young men from the Coogee Dolphins on their end-of-season trip.
Tiny bit different for me in the sense that I was living in England at the time and wasn't living in Australia. I actually came out for my first ever visit to Australia the year after. So it was this far away place I'd never visited still by then. But I first learned of the Coogee Dolphins, and I thought they were called the Coogee Dolphins back then. But I first heard of the Coogee Dolphins because of that tragic circumstance. And who would have thought that a end-of-season football trip for some blokes that are playing some A-grade football could have ended in the middle of such a terrorist atrocity. Like, that is, for the families, the people left behind, that is arguably one of the most hard things to get your head around, I think. I mean, I don't want to turn this into an analysis of the way people pass or whatnot. I mean, I think we all accept that things do happen at some time. Sometimes I've had a friend, for example, this week who's lost somebody in a car accident, and these things do happen. But I think the magnitude of that event and the fact that it was a certain nightclub on a certain trip at a certain time. I mean, so many things that have to come together, Taylor and James, for that to happen. And I don't know how you countenance that in your head if you're one of the family left behind. I really don't.
Have you seen the docu-series type thing on I believe it's on Stan?
Not seen it yet. Yeah,
it's really it's about a 10 episodes or so, and it goes right into depth in the whole thing, and it's quite just a shocking event that happened. And
does it come from the angle of the terrorists themselves or the people on the trip? Or
it actually comes from all. It does an episode on the people from the trip. There's an episode on the terrorists, the police trying to catch them, the Australian detectives that flew over, the conditions they were dealing with. It's really good. It's of course they're actors and all those sorts of things. But I've actually been watching a few things on this recently because I was quite young at the time, but it was only a year after the September 11 attacks, and I remember nothing of those at all. But I remember everything about the day when I found out about the Bali bombings. It just hit a lot closer to home for Australians. It was a really, really massive event, but quite shocking. Do you remember that when it happened, James?
I do remember that one, Taylor. Yes, I remember that quite vividly. And that also one that I was involved in, which is a long time ago, before in the 1980s league, the fire at Bradford City.
What, you were there?
At Bradford City. I was there. I was sat in that stand. I was luckily about 10 rows from the front. Me and my dad were in, and my friend, we if I hadn't been near the front, I might not be here. So
just be aware your coverage went a little bit funny there.
Did it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just be careful.
Yeah.
I heard you. You just got to be careful when you're doing it on your phone, James. Last time, YouTube took a still of your nostrils.
Right.
So when I put it up on YouTube, everyone could see what nose operations you'd have. The Bradford Fire, yeah, and that's another sliding doors moment. That's a sliding doors moment for you, isn't it, mate? I mean, was it seated or was it stood at the time?
It was seated with the paddock at the front.
So in theory, you could have bought a ticket and randomly been allocated closer to that event.
Yeah, well, exactly. Or I could have been at the back, because at the back the gates were locked. It was just before half time and the gates were locked. So that's how people just got trapped. The actual speed, I remember it, and I remember looking to the left corner. I was near the middle of the pitch, and there was smoke. And I'm thinking, I was glancing back at it. Then I looked back, and it was just a wall of flames, and just get out of the stand. And my dad's unfortunately no longer with us, but he got the top of his head a bit burnt as well. So
wow, it's I mean, football stadium and rugby league stadium have improved so much, Taylor, haven't they? I mean, you I don't think you've visited England, have you, mate? But
no.
Some of those stadia Bradford Bulls played at Valley Parade for a while because Odsal was out of commission, and a lot of the football stadia and the rugby league stadia were quite similar in the sense that they were built in the same way, and wooden benches for seats and whatnot. And obviously, we had an outbreak of certain events in a couple of decades, the 70s and the 80s, and you honestly felt as a sports fan at the time that you were just treated like a caged animal or something. It was looking back, it was quite horrendous because we're in relative luxury now, but some of the facilities. I mean, I remember being at Salford's ground, and there was one toilet, and you remember this, James, right near the Willows. This was right near the dressing sheds. And the people in the houses above could actually see you going for a whiz.
Yeah, we're just a wall up.
Basically. That's right. Yeah. And you used to go and stand and just pee into this. Basically, peed on a wall that had a plug hole in. It was.
Yeah.
There's nothing pleasant about it, and all sports, luckily, in the countries that we're talking about. I mean, the Rugby League World Cup is going to be played in some excellent stadia. So, it's changed. It's changed for the better. But going back to the Bali Bomb, mate, I mean, I sent a message there to the Cuddy Dolphins Club today via the socials. And, now I live here, it feels close to home for me, if that makes sense, even 20 years on, And I know people that have played at the Cuddy Dolphins and a part of that club, so
yes, it's one of those things. I think it's just close to our hearts as a rugby league community, to be honest. Really, the place is it's really synonymous with the end of season trips. So may those all 202 lives lost, we think about them, especially on this 20th anniversary. But we're going to move on. We're going to move on to some more stuff around the rugby league world. One, Lee, that I was going to bring up, I laughed a lot, and I laugh a lot every day. I'm one of those guys that laughs a lot in general. I'm pretty happy on life.
Did you look in the mirror?
But I stopped and laughed out loud, when I saw Paul Kent write in an article that he believes 90% of footballers and footballing people agree with his opinions, and it's only 10% who shout on Facebook.
Okay. I'm actually quite a big Paul Kent fan.
You're a big Paul Kent fan?
Yeah. Just because he is. All journalists have some kind of an agenda. They've got somebody in the pocket or something, There's a couple of journalists have a couple of coaches in the pockets and agents and all this and blah, 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 blah. Paul Kent, to me, Whether he has got those agendas or not, he doesn't seem to carry that with him on NRL 360. Everyone's in the firing line. I find he calls a spade a spade. I love how passionate he gets. He doesn't mince his words. I'm actually a bit of a fan. I've got to be honest. I mean, I'm not 100% in agreement with him all the time, but I've got to be honest, mate. I do like him, and I do like him as a pundit. And I guess one of the reasons some people don't like him is that he says things about their club or them that they probably don't want to hear. That's my personal opinion.
I just find that one moment, I can typify one moment that, in my opinion, describes Paul Kent perfectly. Does everyone remember the West Tigers, North Queensland Cowboys forward pass, non-forward pass moment this
5
year?
years. Yeah.
This year.
Oh.
When the Cowboys were almost beaten by the Tigers.
No, I don't remember.
They scored on full time. And the pass was, it was 5 meters forward, and everyone reviewed it. The NRL apologized. They said they got it wrong. I don't know if you remember, the Tigers were talking about.
Yes, I do. I do remember now. Yeah.
And I watched NRL 360, and I sat down and watched it. The NRL had already apologized. The referees had already apologized. The Cowboys said they themselves thought it was forward. And Paul Kent come out and said, "Oh, look, if you have a real look at it from the line, it just seemed like a line ball to me." And I thought, this bloke is just trying to stir up some opposition because no one else in the rugby league community thought that it was backwards or even straight. But Paul Kent took the opposing view. And I just thought, that just sums up Kenty. If there's a view to be had, he'll get on the other side of it and argue with it, whether he thinks it's right or not. I just think the bloke loves an argument.
I think that night there was no fault line for them to argue. So he decided just to pick that one. That was ridiculous what he said. So there's one of the 90% that I disagreed with him.
So what about the players, the Penrith players? How did you find? We spoke a little bit about their celebration.
That's right. I thought he went a little bit over the top there. I think we discussed that last week, didn't we? And we all sort of said, "Oh, it's a different era, blah blah blah." This is what I'm saying about journalists having an agenda, right? So what the Daily Telegraph in particular do is basically on the table, one will be for and one will be against it a lot. And I'm not taking back my comments about Paul Kent. I think he's pretty good at hiding whatever agendas he has, but I think you've brought up the two cases. The Cowboys one, he just thought, I'll go in opposition to it. And he's probably done it more than that, but that's the one that sticks in the mind. And then the Penrith one, I just thought he went a bit too harsh on them. But I understand where he's coming from too, because he's a certain vintage of person. And when the game was played by him and his fellow friends and opposition, and I dare say you and I are a bit of even though you're younger than me, you're still a bit like this. When we played, mate, there was no bullshit. There was less bullshit in the game. And rugby league knocked the BS out of you, So anything like that, I coach. If you lose, say nothing. If you win, say even less.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. Absolutely. But there's two situations. Paul Kent also come out today and said, in order to ensure there's no salary cap cheating, all NRL players should have to give the NRL their tax to show their taxable incomes and all that to the NRL.
Why?
Because that way it would show if any clubs were salary cap cheating and if there was any under the table funny business going on.
I hate the fact that NRL players' salaries get published in the newspapers and whatnot. Like, what's it got to do with us? They're not government employees.
Yeah, but there's three. Like Paul Kent's come out and said he wants their tax to be submitted to the NRL so they can assess if there's any funny business happening. Every NRL player should do it.
Well, there's no problem. There's no problem submitting it to the governing body of the sport if there's a salary cap. I don't necessarily agree with that, but what I don't want to see is it go publicly. I don't.
Yeah, I don't like it seeing go public either. But there's three controversial Paul Kent takes on things. It's I just think that his statement today that 90% of people like him and all that sort of stuff. I mean, he's getting paid to do his job. He's doing a job.
Have you ever thought that comment might have been made on the fault line too?
That comment's been made to roll up the 90%.
No, the 10%.
The 10%. The 10%.
Yeah.
Loud,
to be honest, mate, I think most people dislike him, but it's the kind of dislike that makes you want to watch it. I think with most people, I actually find most people say that about Gus Gould too. They hate listening to him in commentary, but they still tune in. I was quite close to a lot of people in Sky Sports in England and in rugby league in England, and it was common knowledge that Steve-O, the old Eddie and Steve-O combo, I don't know if you remember hearing him, Taylor. He actually he's a legend at Penrith actually because of when he played there, but he's a British hooker. He used to say certain things to get a reaction, and his producer used to encourage him to say that. Yeah, because they wanted to get an emotion of one way or the other, So an emotion is good.
I've got no doubt Paul Kent plays on emotions.
100%.
I've got no doubt whether I agree with them wholly, and whether you argue that is his agenda. Just get people upset, get people whatever, take a side, swing at it.
Maybe that's what we should do on the podcast.
Maybe it is what we should do on the podcast, but I don't. You know what I mean? I don't like that. I think it's disingenuous. I think he tries to stoke fires to keep a job. I don't know. That's just me.
There's no doubt legacy media. It's a bit different in England, James, isn't it? Because there's more people there and there's more newspapers and they're all competing. But over here, where there's only 23, 25 million people, legacy media, by legacy I mean modern, old-fashioned media, the newspapers and the television, linear television they call it, where you turn on the TV and you wait for the show at 8 o'clock, and if you miss it, you miss it. That's called linear TV. And those methods of consuming content are dwindling by the day. So to stay relevant, a lot of these News Corp journalists have to write things that make you want to click on them, and they have to say things that make you want to watch them. And quite often you'll see on NRL 360, whatever they say on there ends up on Fox Sports NRL website.
Yeah.
In those sections. And quite often, mate, when we've been looking at a topic or we've not thought of a topic and I'm hosting the podcast and it's I've got my second screen there, I'll see one of the topics and just throw it in there, So that's what they're doing. And
rinse, repeat.
I guess. Yeah.
It was always interesting with Steve though, because he'd always comment about the referees, and that's
right. The merry whistleblower.
The merry whistleblower, yeah. But also the one in football. I know he's not your club allegiances league, but for the Red Half of Manchester. But Roy Keane, he's always interesting with his opinion.
Yeah, I like listening to Roy Keane, Keane and Graham Souness.
Yeah, dead straightforward.
And Gary Neville. I like Gary Neville. There's two United players and a Liverpool player. I mean, I can't think of two worse, So I do like listening to him.
All right. Well,
stop mentioning football, James. It's a rugby league coach podcast.
I know, I'm taking it away from, and I'm going to take it to American sport as well.
I know. Well, if you're not careful, I'm going to put a call out to all the taxi drivers out there and say that they're better than bus drivers.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, you can do and damage our business. Yeah, but I mean, Gus Gill definitely comes out. Gus Gill comes out with the comments, and it's controversial. And Paul Kent, and I think sometimes they do it deliberately to stir it up.
100%.
I mean, not Gus Gill, well, Gus Gill, but Paul Kent, and it's interesting, and people watch. It gets some ratings, and people watch, and that's what they want at the end of the day. So, yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, let's move on. I've got one more serious topic, and then I've got a fun topic, and I've got some homework to dish out. I've decided on some homework, mainly because Lee gave me some homework in school. I haven't forgot about it. I'd like the opportunity to give it back, and I think this is one of the only times I'll get from here on.
I think the only homework I give you at school was to get thinner. I probably did. I'm sure you were in the. I mean, I wouldn't have called it this in the school, but it was basically the fat club, wasn't it? Get fitter. You would have been.
I wasn't.
I'm sure you was.
I wasn't. You know, from the end of SG ball season, when does SG ball end? May?
May, if you go well, yeah.
I was 94 kilos playing back row, and then by the end of the school year, I was 105 playing prop.
Okay.
There you go. Oh, geez, I just dropped my ring.
But were you as fit, though?
I was still pretty fit because we were playing so much football. Do you remember?
But you, at the end of the day, you just would have been training less because you were training with two teams, and then all of a sudden you were training with one. So.
No, but we were playing regularly, so I was still playing football on the weekends. I was still training with you, and playing football with you. There's still lots of football.
You're talking about 2011, aren't you?
Yeah. I was still.
And you know, some props. I'm a big believer in this too. Some props actually benefit from a little bit of extra weight, and because you get the benefit of not having to keep them on the field for a full half. Yep. So sometimes it's just better carrying a bit of weight. But it's interesting. Plus, don't forget, mate, at that age, you would have been growing as a human being too.
Oh, yeah, I definitely. And
it might sound ridiculous a few months, but that's how it does happen, you know. It's
yeah, dude. It was pretty like that. But anyway, I digress. The serious conversation, Des Hasler. What is going on at Manly? First of all, James, have you kept up with the Des Hasler story? If you have, is he the coach in 2023 or not?
I haven't actually kept up with it too much, to be honest. I'll be honest. But I've seen, they're talking about Anthony Seibold being the coach.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so you've caught me out, Taylor. You've caught me out on that.
I've caught you. I bowled him, middle stump. Lee
I'll be honest.
Yes, I'm ready.
Going.
Oh, gone. The thing with Des, and we had this conversation before because we brought up the topic if the all-powerful coaches is a thing of the past. Des is... Manly's an interesting joint, mate. They've gone through CEOs like you or I go through underpants.
Maybe you're English.
So, what does that mean? You don't change yours?
No, I mean,
anyway,
I'm twice a day. You blokes are lucky to shower once a month.
But Manly in the last 15 years, even when I was there, and it was a build up. So basically, ever since the Northern Eagles thing finished and the new Manly club was formed.
Yep.
Des, basically, when that club started up again, Des was the key figure because they put him in as coach because they wanted I think it was a cheaper option, basically, or a safer option because they weren't that crash out as a club and nothing was in place. But he ended up emerging as this coach of, because he works hard and this, that, and the other, and eventually I don't know about his wages, but I assume they went up. I don't assume he was getting paid $900 a year at the start because I think by everyone's admission, he was just a fitness trainer. And it basically ended up that him, because I know because I was there, him and Crusher Cleal were almost untouchable in a way. Like I remember, I love Crusher. Crusher's a great bloke, but there was a lot of knives out for him in certain places in terms of his work ethic and whatnot. And occasionally a new CEO would come in, pull him up on the hours he was doing. And next minute, 2 months later, they were out on the air. And I've got my theories around that. I think Bozo was still pulling some strings, even though he wasn't at the club officially. And what he said went. God rest Bozo's soul. But Manly's got he's very interesting. I loved it there. But Ken Arthurson, are you familiar with that name? He was the old CEO, and he also ran the ARL for a bit. And he's still a big part of the Manly family, even though he's not at the club officially anymore. Bozo was the captain and the coach. And yeah, basically Crusher and Des ran the show.
Yeah.
Right? And therefore, Des ended up as the pseudo CEO, the pseudo head of recruitment, with Noel being the real head of recruitment. And nothing happened without Des's say-so. And he obviously won the second premiership in 2011. I remember him saying to a camera when they filmed him eating a post-match dinner or something, or celebrating on the course, so he said, "Show me the money." And he went to Canterbury for more money and got the same control by all accounts. And depending on which way you look at it, Des messed the salary cap up long term. The club's still recovering from it, etc., etc. He wasn't in much demand for a year or two. Then he ended up going back to Manly because he walked out of Manly, remember? And then he got back to Manly and got his control. And Tony Mestroff, who happens to be a good friend of mine, he's gone in as CEO, but there's not been a CEO there for a while. So Des was effectively the CEO again.
Yeah.
And I think what's happened is that, and I don't want to breach my friend's trust, because obviously he's my friend, so I do talk to him about the occasional thing, even though he doesn't break much code either, any code, sorry, about what goes on in Manly, but you do hear things, but I still don't want to divulge anything. But basically, I think Scott Penn and the Penn family want some change. Tony Mestroff's there to implement a lot of that, and it's not gone down well. And this jersey thing ended up being a problem. And with hindsight, I'm starting to think Des might have made it a bit of a problem. And the only reason it's lingering on is that Des won't walk. He'll wait for a payoff.
He's not walking. He's absolutely not walking. Apparently the club have, supposedly in the media, the club have given him the end of the week to accept terms that 2023 is his last year, and he's just flat out saying no, not accepting those terms. He has a long-term contract, and he'll see you in November.
I mean, I guess as a coach at a lower level at any point, I want complete control over football in the sense that anything pertaining to football, I want control. But I have worked with head of recruitment before, and what we did was we sat together and said, "Mate, I'd love this kind of player in this position, this kind of player in that position. I'll stay out of recruitment. Can you do it?" "Yes, I can." Worked fantastically. And I certainly didn't say no to anything that he brought my way, and I've done that in schools and whatnot. It's just an ego thing. It's a power thing, and I think as well, it comes down to if you're a club man or not. I mean, people say Des is Manly through and through, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to be a bit critical of Des now. If he was clearly Manly through and through and absolutely Manly through and through,
step aside.
Or see the need for a progression, a succession plan. Because what Manly don't want is for Des to leave when he decides to leave, or when they sack him or whatever, when his contract's up, and for them to turn into another Bulldogs that's spending 4 years trying to recover themselves. So if he's got that much say over the organisation, who they pay to this, that and the other, so I'm of the opinion, mate, that Des ideally should be someone who goes, right, I know there needs to be a succession plan. Can we have some conversations in good faith? I understand where you're coming from. Is there any chance I can move up to be a football overseer role or something like that? Or, because that's the other thing too. Most outsiders want to see Des at the club for life. But Des is a tough taskmaster, both on the training field and also in the negotiating table for himself. And it's not looking good, is it?
No.
It's not looking good. And I'm not saying that the Pens have handled it great. I don't know. I'm not passing comment on that. But everything I've seen in public, I understand their take. But I'll tell you what else is happening, mate. The Pens have got their media in their pockets and leak into the same newspaper sometimes. And then another journal's obviously clearly saying what Des Hasler wants out there. So that in itself is a bad sign for the club. It is.
Now I'm going to move on from Des. I'm going to move on from drama. I'm going to move on to our fun topic of the night. I'd like to pick before the World Cup starts, a best 17, a 1-17 from the World Cup. Now I'm going to rely heavily here on our English friends to help with our UK sort of contingent.
Can we do it together?
We're absolutely going to do it together. This is going to be the Rugby League Coach podcast, team of the World Cup, and we'll review at the end.
There can't be a better fullback than Tedesco. Sorry.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Not just saying that, but I'm going to name Tedesco.
Yeah, I've got Tedesco at fullback too, and that was one of my non-negotiables. So I think Tedesco wins that battle. But we come to the wingers. Well, there's a good conversation for Brian To'o. There's a good conversation for Joseph Suaalii, even though he's playing fullback for Samoa.
Yeah.
I mean, where do we sit on the winger?
I would throw in Ronaldo Mulitalo. I mean, he was Origin selected last year. He just couldn't play because he wasn't qualified. Yes. But we're talking about that caliber of player, and I think a year on he's even better.
Well, if Mulitalo plays Origin and there's no issues there, there's no need for a Tuolangi this year. And
Tuolangi is a good shout.
Well, he's the Australian winger now, so I think Tuolangi, Mulitalo. I don't think you can go past Brian To'o on one wing, and I'm open to negotiations for the other wing.
I'm not keen on picking up. Sorry, James. You go.
I think it's the yardage that Brian To'o makes when he's running back from receiving the ball from the kick.
And who are the two English wingers this time?
We've got Tommy Makinson.
Tommy Makinson's not a bad shout, mate.
No, Tommy Makinson and say Ryan Hall's still in the squad, but also Dom Young from Newcastle.
Oh yeah, he's a shining star. Mate, you know what? There's an embarrassment of riches there, and we've not even looked at some of the other nations.
No, we haven't.
Well, I mean,
I reckon we might have to play it a bit safe. So I'm not a fan of playing a player out of position. So Alihi.
We'll leave him out.
Has he played wing for the Roosters this year?
Yes, he has. But this is the World Cup edition. He's playing fullback for Samoa, so let's leave him out. I'm happy to go with
To'o.
To'o?
Yeah, To'o, definitely.
And then do we say Makinson?
Or Mulitalo?
We'll go Mulitalo.
What do you reckon, James?
I think Mulitalo. I mean, it's Makinson's decent, but I mean, I could come on to that subject another time. But the difference between NRL and Super League is chalk and cheese. So I think this is going to be.
That's two of Addison's boys in the World Cup 13 already, and we've only picked three.
Well, we've only picked three players. At centre, Taylor Brown. We'll get another one of your boys in there, Lee. What do you reckon? No, Latrell Mitchell. I think he's got to be one.
And I'd probably can we put Suaalii in the centre?
Look, we can.
Suaalii.
He's playing fullback at the World Cup. I'm keen to leave him there. But I would like to, who have we got for New Zealand? We haven't.
Who's playing for Greece?
Who's mate? Lachlan Ilias. Listen, I still haven't given out my homework, so maybe keep the Greek guys in your back pocket.
What position's Joey Manu playing?
I believe they have Manu at fullback, which is unfortunate. Unless you want to break protocol and put Joey Manu in the centres.
But because he's played centre, hasn't he, this year?
Yeah, absolutely.
Joey Manu centre is my call. Joey Manu, Latrell Mitchell. That's my call. Who do you think, James?
Got to pick Latrell. How about Campbell Graham centre for South Sydney? Decent.
No, I don't. As well. I don't think he plays in the final 17 for Australia.
Nah.
Right.
I don't think he does, in all honesty. I think Valentine Holmes is a better pick than him.
Yeah.
He's obviously Tommy Turbo's obviously injured. Then is he for this? I mean,
he is. Otherwise, it'd be Mitchell and Trebojevic. So I've put Joey Manu in there, fellas.
It's one of the weakest Australia teams for years, but it's still a very good team.
It's still a good team looking down at.
Now, there's a good conversation here for the halves because you have in New Zealand. Well, I mean, I don't think there's a better 5'8" than Cameron Munster. How do we all feel about Cameron Munster?
Yeah. Who were the 6 and 7 in New Zealand?
Well, I think the halfback for New Zealand for the Melbourne Storm should get a look.
Yeah.
Oh God, his name just escapes me right there. Embarrassing.
Is it? It's not
Jerome Hughes.
It is Jerome Hughes.
Yeah, Jerome Hughes.
I don't mind Jerome Hughes. The 6 and 7 for Australia: Cameron Munster, Nathan Cleary. Head and shoulder. Nathan Cleary's head and shoulders above any half that's played for a while.
His kicking game. This is kicking game, isn't it? But he takes the defence on as well. He actually takes them on, but he's kicking his bombs, and they're going to catch them torpedo bombs. They're going to catch winners out in this.
But how can you not make an argument for Jerome Luai, who's just in combination with Cleary, won back-to-back NRL premierships and played in another grand final the year before? Like,
you can make a strong argument for Jerome Luai. You can make a strong argument for Luai, but I think Munster turns any game on his head. He's too elusive. I can't leave him out. I'd be more. I think Munster's head and shoulders above Luai, and I think Cleary's head and shoulders above any other half.
And I agree with you. However, if I'm picking a team, I like the thought that Luai and Cleary have got the combo.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that.
All right, well, let's go with that. That's 2 out of 3.
It's a brave man that keeps Munster out. I understand that. So I'm going to jump the gun and say, can we put Munster in 14?
Absolutely, we can. Can. Now,
because Munster can come on at fullback or whatever, and just
Now, one position where we are truly spoilt for riches is front row. I think Jake Trebojevic would be up there as front row. I think James Fisher-Harris.
Yes, and some of the English boys. Tell Taylor who the English boys are.
Well, we've got we've got Luke Thompson, Burgess. Just going down just got the list in front of me really here.
Luke Thompson doesn't break too many plates for me.
No, not really. I just kind of named an NRL player for English.
What about the Samoa and Tongan front rowers? Geez, they'll be huge.
We've got Paulo, haven't we, for Samoa?
Junior Paulo.
Paulo. Yeah.
Barlow, I think he likes to be called.
But Fisher Harris for Penrith. He's
Paulo Fisher Harris.
Yeah, I like that shout too. Paulo and Fisher Harris.
Fisher Harris playing for New Zealand.
He is.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
And the next elusive role would be the hooking position.
I love Harry Grant.
I really like Harry Grant too. Sorry, Vali.
It's Harry Grant's passes that he throws from dummy half. I've not the length he gets on his passes,
and just the X factor he brings, James too.
All right, we'll go with Grant. I was going to ask who the English had in hooker. Is it still? It's not Roby. Is he finished?
It's Michael McElaurin and Andy Ackers from Salford, who I've not really seen a lot of, to be honest. But
Mick McLaurin's not a bad hooker, but he's not Harry Grant.
He's not Harry Grant.
No,
okay, we'll stick with Grant, and then we go into back row. There's a couple of really good players here for a number of sides. I think Jeremiah Nanai is a good shout from the Australian team. Cameron Murray as well.
Yeah.
Angus Crichton for Australia. Then you've got Britton Nakora for New Zealand.
Yeah.
There's a couple of really strong players. Elliot Whitehead for England. Bateman for England.
Kick out.
Yeah. What country is he playing for?
I think he's playing. Let's just have a look. I've got my research thing here. He's playing for. I'll find it out for you.
Good job you're not commentating on the match, mate. You'd be half an hour.
He's playing for Fiji.
Mate, you got to kick out.
Oh, yes, for the Army kick out.
Get him in.
Yeah.
So if we go kick out.
He's
and then the next one, it's Nanai, Murray.
What about? I tell you a player that I like, Ruben Cotter. Probably not the best World Cup for him, but Ruben Cotter, all action player for Cowboys.
Well, I actually like Ruben Cotter for a bench position in this team.
Yeah,
I think he can play. He plays big minutes. Considering you already have Fisher Harris and Junior Barlow that doesn't play big minutes, I think a forward like him. But whether he beats out Jake Trbojevic, that's another question.
So you've got Jake Trbojevic in the second row.
I've got him on the bench, front row on the bench.
Who are the Aussie second rowers?
Cameron Murray, Angus Crichton, and Nanai.
Who are the Kiwis?
Britton Nakora is one of them. Let me just bring out their squad from the weekend.
Mate, I reckon Nakora and Kickow will be a great second row pairing.
He's Isaiah Papalai. He's a back rower, isn't he?
He is, and he's the other one for New Zealand.
Papalai, yeah.
He's the other one for New Zealand.
He's a good one. There's not far off an embarrassment of riches on that too.
There's some great sides there.
I'm plumping for Kickow. We're all in agreement on Kickow.
Put Kickow in there, yes.
And Nakora.
Nakora? I really love run some really good lines. And then Isaiah Yao, I have for lock.
Or Cameron Murray.
Yeah.
Massive Murray fan, me. Massive.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Or Jake Trbojevic.
Yeah. Tomalolo, maybe. Tomalolo.
Oh, Tomalolo. Tomalolo.
Who's the English lock?
Victor Radley.
Yeah, Victor Radley. Yeah.
Another quality lock. Another really quality lock.
New Zealand?
New Zealand will be using what's his name?
Tuera Nikau.
Yeah. Going back a bit.
Ruben Wiki.
Yeah. Stephen Carney in the back row.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the strength of the England team, though, isn't it? The back row, definitely. That has to be their strength.
I'm still plumping Cameron Murray. He's Bradley Clyde-esque. He's good.
You like him?
I do like him. My kind of lock, Cameron Murray.
All right. Well, let's do that. I'm just getting up the Rugby League World Cup squad here for the Kiwis.
Mate, because I'm not at my desk at the mic, I'd have the squads in front of me now, giving you the rundown.
Yeah,
I'm in relaxed mode on my sofa.
Asofa Solomona, Gerard Ria Hargraves.
Oh.
Jesse Bromwich.
Oh.
Yeah, Bromwich.
Papali'i. Joseph Tarpanay, who we've completely ignored so far.
Kiwis have got a great squad.
Yeah, they really do. They really do have a great squad.
Where are they weak?
Jordan Ricky. Moses Leota. We haven't spoken about him.
My God.
Geez, they have a good side.
And Petter Hiku has played quite well for North Queensland when I've seen him this season as well.
He has. He really has.
I think he had a short spell at Warrington a few years ago, from what I remember.
He did. He had a very short stint there.
Yeah.
Cameron Murray. My hands up for Cameron Murray.
All right. Yeah. Well, I have been undecided, so I'm going to go with Cameron Murray.
He's over the line then, James.
Now, we're onto the bench.
Can Ellery Hanley still available? Best player ever.
What a support player he was. The Trisbit was there.
So, old mate, Munster. Trbojevic didn't get into our 13, did he? So I reckon he's a great bench player. I reckon Isaiah Yeo needs to be on the bench.
Yeah.
Cotter.
So we've only got 4, lad.
We've only got 4 spots.
We need an outside back now. Because we've got Munster who can cover halves and full back, but we probably need some outside back cover. And that's where I'd bring in somebody like
Jack Whiten?
Oh, yeah.
Valentine Holmes, maybe?
Oh, yes. Holmes. Yeah, good call.
So I've got Trbojevic, I've got Trebojevic, but I've held off on after that because now we've got cover for the halves and fullback with Munster. We've got cover for front rows and locks in Trebojevic.
Yo.
We're missing Isaiah Yo. Well, he can cover back row.
Yeah.
Isaiah Yo.
So I think we need somebody who can play centre or wing.
Maybe, let's say maybe Holmes. I mean, you've got Adokar for sheer pace, haven't you? But he's basically just a pick and swing. Yeah.
I've got Holmes there, but I'm also thinking Whiten.
Is Whiten in the Australian squad?
Yes, he is. Or Joseph Suaalii.
Ooh. Suaalii. Yeah, I do like having a bit of X factor on the bench, you know. Because you're outside back. Interchange. You don't always use them because of you don't have to interchange your outside backs, and they're not a forward, and so on and so forth. But what you can use them for is if you need something better, or if your centre or your wing isn't defending very well, or whatever it may be, you try something different. Or if you need to pull some, I mean, what about that? What about that X factor on the bench, Cameron Munster and Suaalii?
Yeah, that's true. But look, if I'm picking a team, a 1 to 17, I'm not giving 2 bench positions to a halves spine replacement and an outside back. I would pick one, and Munster could play centre if you needed to. And we've picked this squad so far as who we would put together. That's why we had Cleary and Luai in the halves. So
what would you pick in the 4th position then?
I would pick a back rower or someone who has the ability to play back row. So you've got Yao, who can cover Trebojevic, and I would maybe think of a Papali'i. Not Josh, Isaiah Papali'i.
Oh, you know what? It also depends who you're playing against too, because if you think you're going to have it tough in the forward, you put an extra forward on the pine. If you think you might need to break open the game, then you might go Suaalii. So,
well, I don't think this side's going to have problems with the forward pack. James Fisher, Harris, Junior Paulo.
So why would you pick another forward then?
There you go.
What do you think about the utility value of having Ben Hunt on the bench as a half-back stroke hooker?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I like Munster. I pick Munster over Hunt.
Yeah.
I pick Munster over Hunt.
I tell you, it'd be a good shout for this team if he was going to make it to the World Cup, and that was Johnny Lomax, but he's injured, isn't he? You know, we could maybe make a 17 of the and make a 17 of the players who are injured.
Well, yeah. Tommy Turbo, obviously straight in.
Straight in. Yeah. Turbo would be in, and then I'd probably put Manu on the bench.
Yeah. Good side, that lad.
It is a good side. I'm going to go with Suaalii.
Very good side.
Yeah, me too.
Suaalii.
Suaalii. So more strength to the Samoan team. Interesting.
So the Rugby League World Cup, the Rugby League Coach podcast, World Cup predicted best 17 so far. Tedesco, To'o, Mitchell, Manu, Mulatalo, Luai, Cleary, James Fisher-Harris, Harry Grant, Junior Barlow, Viliami Kikau, Britton Nakora, Cameron Murray, Cam Munster, Trebojevic, Isaiah Yao, and Joseph Suaalii.
You know what's really interesting about that? The fact that it's not 1 to 12. You know, there's normally 11 Australians in your best 13.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, the Australians were in every conversation.
Yeah.
But we did, you know, and
no Englishman made it.
No Englishman made that side. Having a little browse here, I cannot see a single Tongan.
There's Tomolola we discussed, didn't there?
We discussed Tomolola.
But we've
not a single Tongan in this side.
But
run off the list of Tongan players, someone, and then
right. We've got David Fafita, but also we've got good fences, Lee, because we've got Will Opawati and Conrad Harrell. So we've got a good set of
but there. With all due respect to them, I don't think you'd put either of those in the Australian Kangaroo side. still.
No, you wouldn't. I agree with that. Definitely
So,
agree with that. Yeah, the Super League dream team, but not a Kangaroos team. Nowhere.
Yeah.
Keon Kulamatangi might have gotten close.
Yeah.
But I don't see anyone else that would have got close, really. Taukeaho, Saliva Havili. I think we've made a few good calls.
I think Samoa are the main South Sea Island team now. They seem to be. But even the talent's, reasonably spread because Papua New Guinea have got Xavier Coates in their team. So,
he wouldn't be far off the team, would he?
No.
Either would, Alex Johnson as winger.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Alex Johnson as a winger. Yeah. He would be a really good fit as well.
Justin Olam's in that team. Justin Olam, he's a centre for Melbourne, isn't it?
Justin, yes, as well. Yeah. There's some really good. There's some really good players trotted out there.
Good side, boys. Good side.
Very good side. So I'm going to send this side to you, Lee, right now. This is our before a ball is kicked. This is the side we've picked together.
I will post it on socials.
And I'm going to give some homework. I mentioned some homework. This will be the last thing we talk about because we are getting on. It would be interesting to see if either of you lads can come up with a 1 to 17. I'll do it as well, using all teams that are going to the World Cup.
Right.
Must have at least one player from all teams. There are 16 sides competing in the men's competition.
Can we make it?
Right.
So there'll only be one double up.
So basically, the best player from each team. If there's a double up on positions, and you have to find the second best player, that's easy. So you need. Are we allowed to watch the World Cup first?
Well, I was going to do it before next week's episode. A 1 to 17.
Right.
Using every player from every squad, but you have to use one player from each squad.
Now, remember, next week's episode could be a bit tricky because I could be in transit.
Well, we might get a little extra time.
True. Do it without me.
We'll see how we go.
See, it will be interesting because the best player for Lebanon is Mitch Moses.
Yes.
But then the best player for Ireland is Luke Keary.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll do. Mitch Moses, Luke. We can probably do something really quickly now. Luke Geary, Mitch Moses, 6 and 7.
Well, then
kick Howes in. Put Tedesco at fullback.
Who have you got from Greece?
And then Coruscant, of course, for Fiji, who's a very good hooker.
Ilias.
Yeah, well, where are you going to put him? You've just named two halves.
Yeah, but you can put Keary at 6 or at 9 or something. What are you laughing at?
I gave you homework, and this is standard, Lee. You're trying to do it now. You're cramming it before you've left the classroom.
Yeah. Nah, who did I pick at 6?
Moses.
Oh, yeah.
Moses and Keary were your halves.
And then we've got Ilias. Ilias at hooker. There you
go. Ilias at hooker. You could probably do something up now quickly. Who are you going to have from Italy?
Improve.
Brendan Santi.
Well,
who else is in that? What are the big names in that squad?
There's Nathan Brown from Parramatta.
There you go. He'll do.
Nathan Brown on the bench.
Sounds Italian.
Cooper Johns, Melbourne Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan Brown.
So he's gone with Tedesco at fullback. Lee's gone with Tedesco at fullback. Xavier Coates on a wing.
Yeah,
PNG.
Joey Manu in a centre.
Yeah.
Tommy Makinson on the other wing.
Yeah.
Suoli'i at the other centre.
Yeah.
Who else you got? Lebanon and Ireland represented.
Yeah. Moses and Keary.
And front row.
You just get a couple of bookends from Greece or Jamaica or something. All they have to do is count the ball up. Wales.
Yeah. We've got Anthony Walker for Wales, who's just left Bradford Bulls to go to win this league.
Okay, get him in.
I'm trying to find this team, this current squad.
Well, I needed to be at my desk for this.
Keep going back to him, but Tom Malolo at loose forward for that team representing Tonga.
They're all English. They're all English from the Batley Bulldogs and the Keighley Cougars and the Huddersfield Giants and the Sheffield Sea Eagles, Workington Town.
Sheffield Sea Eagles. That's a new franchise.
Cornwall. London.
Well, I reckon we try and finalise that then for the next one. But we had a good stab at that.
Yeah, we had a good stab at that.
Just from the old Chrome Dome.
there's 16 teams and there's 17 spots.
Yeah.
So, it's basically one apiece, and then you get an extra.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Bananas.
There's the homework. All right. What do you say? What do you say we wrap it up there?
Sounds good, lad.
That was a fun little podcast. That was a bit different.
It was. I'm going to eat a bit of chocolate now.
Oh, because you trained.
Yeah.
You honestly reckon you deserve it? Like, have a think about it. Do you reckon
I absolutely deserve it, mate. I've been working like a dog.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm going to go to bed. I can smell both you poms from here. All right. So next week, we'll tell everyone, Lee, during the week what's happening with next week's podcast.
Yeah, we will. I have done an interview with Dr. Hunter Fujak from Deakin University, who's a lecturer in sports management and did a book called Cold War. So it's just on my bookshelf behind me. Got some amazing things to say about where rugby league is at from a business perspective. And I've sort of thought of that as one of my holding podcasts in case we don't get one out.
Yes.
I can't get together while I'm in transit because it all depends on what time you can do, Taylor, really, I think, because me and James, we'll have to work, won't we, lad?
We will. It'll be, yeah. Well, yeah.
So what time is it where you are now, James?
It's 1:45.
Okay.
12:45. So
I can probably do that. I can probably do that time in the first week, but the second week will be a bit tricky. Unless I do it in front of a load of kids at the clinic.
Yeah.
Or with a St. Helens accent. Sounds a bit scarce. No, you're right. You're right, Taylor.
All right. I've had enough. I'm out of here.
All right, lads.
See you, gentlemen.
See ya.
Cheers, lads. Speak to you soon. Bye.